Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. In tonight's video, it's going to be covering the 10.1 Warlock PTR spreadsheet, which, if you're watching this, is indeed now live publicly, all the above. It was open to the Tier 3 Failguard rank of Patreon or higher, like usual, for early access, but it's now less than essentially a week until the patch launches, so it's time to go public with this. So, yeah, now it covers the raid, specs per each fight, builds you can play for each spec. There's heroic testing, mythic testing, talent builds for every spec in different tabs, mythic plus gearing, raid gearing, sims, and a few other things, well, along the way. Now, there's no weak auras or add-ons or anything in this video on display, but if you want access to them, links to Twitch and Discord down below. They're all for free for you guys. And I already mentioned it, but once again, guys, we're all supported on Patreon. I appreciate it 10,000 times. Legitimately, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Allows me to keep doing what I'm doing for you guys. And yeah, so that being said, let's jump right on into it. Alright, so getting right into it, I forgot to mention there's links down below in the description or comment section to this, depending when the video goes live, but the way you can tell this sheet has changed over the past X amount of days or whatever, the updated box up here will indeed tell you. Now this is the front page of it, number one, right into it, Aberrus to Shadow Crucible, the new raid. So this page covers basically every single fight, Khazara, Amalgamation Chamber, this might be called Mulgaroth now, I'm not even sure, they changed the name a few times. Forgotten Experiments, Assault of the Zakali, Rashok the Elder, Zaskarn, Magmarox, Echo of Notherian, and then eventually Scale Commander Sarkalath. Now, Scale Commander has not been tested on PTR, it will not be, so there's no footage of this. However, if you'd like heroic testing of Khazara, whatever fight there is, you're looking at here, there's heroic links here to my testing, as well as mythic testing. Now, I do not have Amalgamation Chamber, I do not have Experiments, I do not have heroic Assault of the Zakali due to my internet being dead these days, but honestly, mythic testing is more than fine for Zakali. It's changed these a bit, and these two fights are pretty simple. If you'd like a full normal raid clear to flick through, there's timestamps in here as well. There's a link to this also. So for the most part, whatever you want fight-wise is basically here. Now, this will go into a bit more in-depth talking about each spec, what's best, what's recommended on this fight. Most of the fights, if you haven't seen, are going to be likely demo-based, looking at how strong demo is and its tier bonus. However, Amalgamation Chamber, Experiments, possibly Zaskarn, being both Destro and maybe Demo. Probably add a note there at some point as well. There's a mix of Destro in this tier, possibly. It's also very strong in single target, very good in cleave, havoc-based cleave, which was not really a thing as much in Vault of the Incarnates due to like Destro being pretty undertuned. But if you like builds for Demo, Destro, AF are all here. Just click the build, it'll bring you to Wowhead, and there's the link you can use. You can copy it, paste it, whatever you want, and plug it right on in. It'll be this way for every single fight, whether you want Demo, Destro, AF. If you want to play AF, even though it's not really recommended on any fight, the link is there. And to a similar extent, there are notes here talking about the fight, what it is, what it entails, and basically all of that. Now, if you're looking for more in-depth builds for each spec, let's say single target versus, you know, AoE, whatever you're looking for, the tabs down here, 10.1 AF, Demo, Destro tabs, we'll show those. So the first build here is single target Malevolent Visionary, which is not the best build anymore. It's been nerfed a couple months ago, give or take, but it is basically the same as it's been on retail. You're playing Malevolent Visionary, Soul Rot, Vile Taint. This build still does get a lot of value from Power Infusion. This build still can be played in certain spots where you want stronger on-demand 2-minute cooldowns or shorter cooldowns being a half a minute or a minute here with Soul Rot and Vile Taint. There's still some value to this build, although not as good in single target as the just straight up single target Haunted Soul build playing Haunted Soul, Dread Touch, Vile Taint, Siphon Life, all that. This build's damage profile is incredibly flat. Really doesn't do much at all. Your cooldowns don't matter at all really in the slightest, but hey, it does semi-consistent damage, so there's that. Moving on from here, you have the Affliction single target AoE hybrid build. This is basically Haunted Soul, but you're not playing Dark Virtuosity, you're playing Seed and Sow. You're not playing PI, you're playing, or PI or Soul Swap, you're playing Soul Flame here. This is the build you've seen played on Razagath, fights where you have a bit of ad spawning. You can get some ad cleave if need be, Seed, Sow damage, all that, but still have the strong single target profile in Dread Touch, Haunted Soul, and hey, Dark Lair's a fun button to hit at times. So, and the last build here, like retail, is the Grim Reach, Soul Rot, I guess big pump build here with Dark Harvest, all that kind of stuff. And this build is, another hybrid build here. So, handful of choices here, but TLDR, AF, not really changing a whole lot from 10.07 to, honestly, 10.1 at all. Now, Demonology is a bit different here, so there's a mix of builds here. This, number one, is the Reign of Tyranny, Immutable Hatred, single target build. This build, from what I've seen, is the best build in single target. Now, the difference here We are not playing from the shadows. This is now called Houndmaster Stratagem, I believe. This no longer affects Tyrant damage. It used to up until 10.1. There was / is still a bug with it. I don't know if it's still around right now, where it is working with Tyrant still on PTR in 10.1. If it's not fixed, I'll change the build. But for now, this looks to be your best build in pure single target heading into patch 10.1. You're playing Internal Armaments, whatever this is called, Infernal Command, I believe. Immutable Hatred, Expendables, Tyrant, with Reign of Tyranny obviously being very good, having a Grimoire sync to that with your 4-piece. And you're playing a single point in Nether Portal. And this is just because you have one floater point down here essentially, and Portal's better than Imp Mother, better than Sack Souls, better than where else you can put it up here. It's just a strong on-demand 3-minute cooldown. And even though you're not getting Pit Lore with this build, it still brings a bit more damage every other Tyrant, which, hey, is not a bad thing. Moving on from here, this is the Demo Immutable Hatred Reign of Tyranny Cleave build, which is similar but different. You shift a point from Vile Fiend to Dreadlash, a point from Shadow's Bite to Implosion, and you basically move this point that's in Portal, I think, up here to Houndmaster Stratagem. Still getting Demonic Calling, still playing everything else here like usual. If you wanted a bit more single target, you could pull the point from Demonic Calling and put it in Vile Fiend here. Sort of up to you, but in a cleave-based scenario, this has mostly been the go-to build in the majority of settings. This is what we're going for. Still playing Hatred, still playing Reign of Tyranny, still bringing that strong on-demand single target profile, but you can implode and get whatever value you need and stack cleave with Implosion, Demonic Strength, Dogs Chomping, all the above. This build here, Nether Portal, Reign of Tyranny Cleave build. Basically, this is the same build as right here. You're just playing Nether Portal stuff and no Infernal Command or Infernal Aura, whatever it's called, and no Immutable Hatred. You're going -2, +2, -1, +1. This build brings, like we know, a very, very strong 3-minute base cooldown in Pit Lord with Nether Portal, with Tyrant giving you big Reign of Tyranny value. This build looks to be, whether you're playing the Cleave build or the single target build, which is right here, the best PI recipient in the game. I don't think it's very close at all. I don't think we've had a build in the history of this game that's been that good for power infusion than this build. So there's that. You win some, you lose some. If you look at that in a good light or a bad way, I don't know. But either way, Pit Lord, very, very strong with Portal every 3 minutes. Tyrant, very strong every 1.5 minutes with Reign of Tyranny, all that. Currently, overall, this build's damage profile is wild. It jumps to 500k with CDs, and then back down to, I kid you not, 50k in between Tyrants. This is Venthyr Boomkin from Sanctum Domination, whatever that was, but even worse, depending how you want to look at it. So, once again, the highest build is currently still Reign of Tyranny Immutable Hatred with just 1 point in Portal, which is a bit more consistent. Still has very big peaks and valleys with, damage profiles and all that, but hey, it is what it is. And the final build here is a Reign of Tyranny Guillotine build. You can play, once again, Grand Warlock's design if you'd like. Up to you, but links to all these builds here. And Destro is similar. Now, Destro's in an odd spot because our bonus is now forcing us into playing Channel Demon Fire. We've talked about that a lot. Obviously, it's not changing at this point. So, in single target, this looks to be the highest Simeon build that I and others have found. You're playing CDF, putting 2 points into Raging Demon Fire. Then you have 1 point in Backlash, 2 points in Scalding Flames, and down here is the normal tree, grabbing Embers, Madness, Chaos Incarnate, Purple Infernal, Burned Ashes, and your baseline Infernal. If you're looking at a should be a space here, a 2-target Havoc Cleave build. So this build's a bit more experimental. Now, you do want to enable your 4-piece whenever you're playing with Destro. It's awkward. I'd say at least in 2-target Cleave with Havoc, right? This is the build that I've been playing with. I've basically just been hitting CDF. I'm not playing Raging Demon Fire. If I was, maybe if they were stacked targets, maybe I play Raging, but if they're spread, like on Amalgamation Chamber or Forgotten Experiments maybe at times, I've been hitting my CDF to get to 8 stacks of my 4-piece and just canceling the cast, and then just going into a Havoc window. It's awkward. Not sure where it's going to land, but this looks to be likely the best build from what I've seen. You want 4-piece value, which hitting CDF and even getting a half channel guarantees a max stack, and then you just go into your Havoc window with Pandemonium, Rolling Havoc, all that stuff, and just get good Havoc-based cleave. Still playing Scalding Flame, still playing the usual build on here, and still bringing that strong single target profile that Destro has. The last build here for Destro is awkward as well, and I don't know what to do here. This is the heavy AoE build in Plus. Now, I have pulled a point from Power Overwhelming and put it in CDF because of CDF being part of your 2-piece and 4-piece. I've played with this build in Mythic Plus. When you have your Infernal down, even when you don't, and you have a lot of shard gen coming in with Inferno Rain of Fire spam, it feels really bad stopping to hit CDF. You're overcapping on shards, it does no damage in the first place. Even if you play Raging Demon Fire, it doesn't do much in AoE. And not casting Rain of Fire means you're losing Inferno value and all that. I've seen various sims where the highest swing build is a Raging Demon Fire build, the highest swing build is playing no CDF at all, just ignoring your 4-piece. The most recent sims that I've seen are indeed playing CDF, not raging, just hitting it in AoE, and just casting Rain of Fires. It might be a thing where you just hit it for your 8-stack and keep spamming Rain of Fire. Honestly, depending where it goes, it might just be a thing where you don't even hit CDF and just don't play it. You just play Power Overwhelming and have no 2-piece, 4-piece. We'll see where it goes. Now, when we're getting into the last 2 or 3 tabs here, 10.1 Aberrus Bis gearing in Season 2 Mythic Plus, big Bis gearing. I will say, number 1 off the bat, the best way to tell for your own character is to run a raidbots.com Top Gear or Dropmizer sim whenever that's updated for next season. It'll take all your stats, all your gear into account, and give you what is tried and true, the best actual upgrades for your character. If you don't want to do that or want to look ahead like most do, these 2 sheets looked, I mean, from what I've seen, this is going to be your best options, whether it's like, you know, early on obtaining Bis here or just long term, what you want to strive for. Now, I've included 5 pieces of tier here: helm, helm, shoulders, chest, gloves, and legs. I'm not sure what piece you want as an off-tier piece yet. It might be legs from Neltharion at 450, but you might want to catalyze those, maybe wear like something else, I don't know, like Amos the Blue, for example, maybe over, it depends. Not really sure, gotta see where that goes. There's new embellishments which might change that. I haven't simmed those yet, but they'll likely be added at some point here soon. But this is a great general starting place for Bis gearing from Plus and the Raid. Now, I've done my best to separate strictly Raid loot and strictly Plus loot, but at the same time, things like trinkets do sort of carry over to being Bis across the board. It's just the way the game is now. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. It is what it is. So moving on from there, I've made a boss loot priority sheet here. Now this changes, this can change a bit. Early on, eye level is always important, so getting a 445 or 444 piece from one of the first bosses, or whatever eye level it is, 444, is likely a pretty big upgrade over a 421 belt you have on, even though it might not be your best option. If it's an off piece from, let's say, Kazara, it still could be pretty good early on. So once again, running your own sims, but big thing here, Lariat looks to quite possibly still be your best item. It gains more value when you have more sockets. They changed that in 10.1. However, I've run sims with Lariat having just 2 sockets and 3 sockets overall, giving you a lesser stat increase, and it still looks to be pretty good. Now, to a similar extent, I've run Amos the Blue sims. I've also run sims with the new Shadow Flame embellishment. They're both pretty close. Amos sims higher, however, it could be a world where you want to grab shoulders at 450 from Neltharion, then grab legs from Neltharion and put them in the Catalyst at 450 and play the Shadow Flame embellishment on a ring somewhere. We'll see where that goes. It could be a long-term thing. But TLDR, it labels what boss drops what. You have Discarin here for chest bracers, gloves waist from Forgotten Experiments, boots ring. If you want to see them, what they actually are, you can just click the item here, bring it to Wowhead. For example, this cloak, this is from Scale Commander Sarkalath. It's the rare cloak that siphons stats from everybody. It's certainly an option. There's that. And it's also labeled rare over here as well. So there's that. Keep in mind, these are hard to obtain, but, you know, cross your fingers for your vault. Now, I mentioned trinkets, so I put 1 in for each spec, basically. Iridius Fragment for Demo, Sporos of Notharius for AF, and Igneous Flowstone for Destruction. Now, there's also going to be sims pinned, I guess, posted in the tab in the very near future here for trinkets, but the TLDR is that, yes, some of these are from dungeons. It's what it is. Iridius Fragment looks to be very, very strong for Demonology, whether you're playing Portal build or not. Most are probably going to play Portal. Big damage behind your Tyrant. You can crank that out. Sporos of Notharius, a 2-man trinket, good for AF. Destro looks to be a pretty flat profile, so you're just playing Igneous Flowstone, which is from Magmarox this raid, actually. It is basically a waxing and waning damage / crit increase with baseline intellect. This might change, but there's that. Now, your weapon is from Scale Commander Sarkalath at 450. It is this staff with haste and versatility on it. Secondary stats still might change in the raid depending on where things go, but keep in mind, eye level often reigns supreme, and the catalyst will be out at some point. Once again, this priority list here, there can indeed be good items from Assault, Amalgamation Chamber, Kazara, these things early on for you. This is more of a long-term look, but once again, you'd want to run your own sims on raidbots.com, a Droptimizer for the raid, whatever, what have you, or look at raw eye level, but there's that. So moving on to Mythic Plus tab here, things get interesting here. So I've added a sheet here, or I guess an image that shows Keystone level, End of Dungeon eye level, and Great Vault level. Now, the cool thing here, dungeon priority. So I have excluded currently Vortex Pinnacle. I'm pretty sure the loot table is probably done in there by now, but I'm waiting for the last minute to add it in, just to make sure we're not adding items that aren't really needed. Now, I've labeled everything for tier slots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to get that from the raid, or catalyze it, however that goes. I've also added, once again, the rare trinket from the raid, or Igneous Flowstone here as one of your options. Unfortunately, there really aren't very many good equipped trinkets from Mythic Plus this time around. They're mostly on use, and the on use ones are pretty good for casters, but the equipped ones are pretty subpar. So likely have to go in the raid for some of those. Iridius Fragments, Spirals on Atheris, Igneous Flowstone, like I mentioned before, about the same thing. Now, the really cool thing here that I haven't talked about a whole lot is that if you're looking to run a couple dungeons, Oldemon and Neltharian's Lair basically have, like, between the two, you can pretty much fill an entire gear set. Helm, like, Neltharians, Oldemon, Neltharians, both of them. Neltharians, Oldemon, both of them, Oldemon. Freehold on the route for a ring. You can also craft the ring if you want. This is raid stuff. I'll just add this here. Once again, dungeons. This is not Oldemon or Freehold, but, you know, there is technically Talon in Oldemon. Not as good as Rock. And then your weapon, Oldemon. So you can fill, for the most part, an entire gear set from spamming these two, which actually sounds pretty awesome. They're both pretty easy dungeons, not too annoying. I will say that as far as weapons are concerned, excluding Vortex Pinnacle, there is one staff for Mythic Plus. It is from Oldemon, which is great to see, obviously. There is one staff, I believe 2 offhands, and 1 main hand from the entire M+ dungeon pool. So depending how lucky you are RNG-wise, it might be worth starting off in Oldemon, because once again, Time-Breaching Talon is not as good as a Iridius Fragment, but it's still a decent alternative, and if you can obtain it early, while farming every year, might be, well, decent option. So, and once again, keep in mind, there are plenty of options other places too. Freehold, for example, has 4. Cloak, I believe it's Cloak, Waist, Ring, and Boots. Now, Theris, to a similar extent, is sprinkled in here somewhere. Cloak, Gloves, Trinket, which is Spoils on Theris. Might even be a 5 here. I might need to add that on. But either way, most of our loot is from 1 or 2 dungeons, it seems like. 1, 2, 3. If you're not an Underrot fan, probably don't got to go in there for much. If you're not a Halls of Infusion fan, well, pray you get your Igneous Fragment early or they nerf it. But for the most part, I like Oldemon. Neltharians is sick, and this looks to be a pretty, I'd say, easy overall flow as far as dungeon farming is concerned early on for us in 10.1. Now, the final tab here is going to be a Sims tab. This tab will be updated. It's always a work in progress. I'll add embellishments and trinkets and all that soon. This is not a overall raw DPS number sim, or I guess tab. So these sims, the gear in them sort of varies. However, the talent combinations, what we're looking at here. So for Demonology, for example, Demo, Reign of Tyranny, Nether Portal, Hatred, Demonic Calling, no FTS. FTS being Houndmaster Stratagem. This build here is, once again, this build here, if I can scroll up, being the current highest overall simming build, which is right here. And you can see the variance here, difference between playing Reign of Tyranny, Nether Portal, Immutable Hatred with FTS, about 1,000 DPS. So you gain about 1,000 putting that point in Demonic Calling. If you want to explore more, there are links here, but to a similar extent, there's Destro talents, Raging Demon Fire, Scalding Flames versus Conflagration and Chaos, Destro AoE, no CDF versus CDF versus Raging Demon Fire, AF single target sims. So currently AF looks like retail still. Haunted Soul Vile Taint with your 4 pieces beating out Singularity by about 1,000 DPS, followed by Malevolent Visionary, Vile Taint, and then Malevolent Visionary PS. Hopefully they revert the Dark Lair nerfs. I doubt they will, but I will say, even though these numbers aren't accurate, they're not all wearing the same amount of gear, or like the same gear set. It currently looks like Demo, Destro, almost one and the same for pure single target sims, and then Affliction down by, well, it's down a good bit. It was likely over nerfed. So thanks for watching, guys. That hopefully wraps it all up. Hopefully the spreadsheet is helpful and informative to you all. I will be updating it over the course of the patch coming out, the last few days of PTR stuff here. If there are buffs or nerfs pushed, I'll make more videos on it, and if things change, I will obviously update it. To a similar extent, the website will indeed be updated likely before the patch comes out, and again before the raid comes out, depending on how things go with everything I have going on. But yeah, there's a lot of content coming down the line. I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun next few weeks. It's gonna be good. 10.1's flying up on us. I was assuming we get this patch probably end of May, but we're getting it early May, and it's going to be a wild ride. So if I missed anything in the spreadsheet, guys, or there's anything you want to see me add to it, put it down in the comment section below. I'll be sure, and if you have any questions down there as well, I'll be sure to get back to you. Once again, any Week Wars add-ons profiles you like, links to Twitch and Discord down below, all for free for you guys. And like usual, I want to give one huge final shout out again to my patrons for all support on Patreon, guys. Thank you a million times. I really appreciate it. Last week, keep doing what I'm doing for you guys, and I just really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be a link up here, as well as down below somewhere. So overall, as far as 10.1's concerned, I think Warlock looks good in Aberrus. Mage was buffed this week. They look pretty solid too, but Demo, whether you're playing Pit Lord or not, with Power Infusion is something. It is wild. It is quite possibly the best Power Infusion target spec I've ever seen in my life in this game. It is very, very good. I'm a bit concerned. I'm worried. We'll see where that goes, but either way, if Demo gets nerfed, hey, Dasher's right there. Dasher, though, unfortunately can't move like Demonology, but there's that. And in the end, hey, let's be honest, probably playing half this tier anyways. So it's going to happen. So all that being said, thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. Helps out a ton. And I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.